Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by Robert DeFelice to talk about Friday Night SmackDown. Robert, change is in the air. We are coming off the heels of WrestleMania 38, the most stupendous WrestleMania of all time. I really hope after this week I will never hear that word again. But here we are, Friday night, just less than a week removed from WrestleMania. How's it going, Robert?
Colin. I'm feeling fantastic. Wrestling has more than one royal family. We've learned that this week. Cody Rhodes is in WWE. That's been a lot of fun. They're merging belts. I'm all about that, even though they continue to prove that that's not a great idea. But I'm excited for the change that's in the air.
It's exciting. Name changes are dumb, but in a general sense, I'm feeling a little invigorated. I'm like, we got some new faces, some new people. Admittedly, maybe Raw needs a little more. Raw got one guy. SmackDown got right now at least 3 new people.
Did Raw get a guy?
More.
I mean, yeah, well, Raw got Cody. Because I was gonna say Ezekiel doesn't count.
No. And we already had Veer, but new faces, new change. It's good. It's good. SmackDown. I will say I had been feeling a little stale heading into WrestleMania, especially. So I was hoping this would happen to see Raquel Rodriguez. Gunther
that's for me, the Raquel Rodriguez. I know a lot of people are mad about Ludwig Kaiser, but Raquel Rodriguez, come on. Somebody got paid to go. I know. Gonzalez to Rodriguez. Somebody got paid for that. I want to get paid for that, Colin. Come on.
It's a little silly, right? People were upset. That one especially, Raquel Rodriguez, from Gonzalez, to me, it didn't need to happen, but because it wasn't even her real name in the first place. That was the name that they had changed her to. But that's what they're doing. Gunther, formerly known as Walter,
what was her original name? It was
Reina. I think it was
Reina Gonzalez, yeah. Right? Reina Gonzalez. Yeah, I would have gone back to, if you're gonna do anything, maybe Reina Rodriguez. It's got the alliteration. It's different than her NXT name, but changing just Gonzalez to Rodriguez seems like the most lazy move ever.
And again, I don't know why they did it. Just
to differentiate.
Okay, but then to me, she's become one of the top stars on NXT.
Yeah,
former NXT champion, 2-time women's tag team champion.
There was a guy named Walter who was an 800-day NXT UK champion. He competed in Survivor Series. There's a guy named Pete Dunne who also competed at Survivor Series a couple of years ago. They don't care about NXT anymore, and it shows, man.
They are riding this weird in between, though, because they've got the 2.0 side of things where Braun Breaker has been on Raw. They've been integrated that some more, but then Gonzalez, definitely part of that, more of the black and gold era side of things. And it is a weird kind of, two worlds in a way. And it is, but the way that the fact they're treating it like that, even though it's one brand, is interesting. Now, we can start with Rodriguez in this case and talk about some others. Steven says, watch the color double RR just for the alliteration. They very well might. I could see it happening. She debuted in a pretty unremarkable way. She was just brought in with a pretty random backstage interview, pretty generic promo talking about, the SmackDown women's locker room, and she wants to, make an impact, blah, blah, blah. And then the Lethal Lovers, Los Lotharios, come up and try to welcome her to SmackDown with their lethal double kiss, and she turned them down. And that was it.
Would have been a good faction, surface level, she can add a layer of intensity to them. I would have liked that pairing, but not the best start for her, because what does this say about her?
Yeah,
it defines her as a baby face, but what else?
Nothing really. I just saying Raquel Rodriguez, not a bad name. People just can't accept it. I mean, we'll talk about another.
It's just a silly name. I mean, it's not a bad name. It's just her name was Raquel Gonzalez. It feels like when somebody would just show up in TNA and suddenly they're they changed the last name but slightly, so it's a completely different character.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's all relative, right? It's better than Butch. We'll talk about Butch in a minute as well. But speaking of the new faces we saw tonight, yes, Ludwig, or Ludwig, I don't know. But
Ludwig. Ludwig Kaiser.
Ludwig Kaiser comes out, and he gets the semi-Imperium entrance, talks about the dominance of Gunther, the ring general, and then Gunther comes out, former NXT UK champion, and he gets kind of the Imperium music, and he gets the entrance there, and they come out, and he faces a local talent, and picks up a dominant win. So, I mean, at least of the two, a more maybe noteworthy debut there.
So, like Fabian Eichner,
that's
is
what
Italian.
About it.
Is Italian. You know who else is Italian? Tony D'Angelo. Oh. I gotta imagine they're like, hey, maybe stick around with Tony because he might need someone around him who can work. But it's so weird because like it felt like Gunther was gonna be the NXT champion, and even there was like a little piece of me that was like, maybe they're waiting to put the NXT title on him to bring Ilya over from NXT UK and just merge that and get rid of UK completely. But no, Gunther's on SmackDown, and I'm all right with it. Gunther versus Roman Reigns would be a lot of fun to watch.
That it would. We got Eddie saying Gunther may change his name, but his chop may not. His chop remains as devastating as always.
Well, what did Pat McAfee call them this week, Colin? Will Smith bombs to the chest.
Oh man. I mean, I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, Gunther, big star, big dude. In theory, has everything they would want. You know, he's got the look. He's an absolute powerhouse in the ring. Eddie's saying another match here, possibly Gunther and Drew McIntyre. That could very well be an option at some point.
He's got to.
Yeah.
Gunther has to kill him. Drew McIntyre pinned him in 2 minutes at Survivor Series 3 years ago. Jesus. But Gunther has to kill him at some point.
I am curious about where he fits in, like right away. I mean, where does this kind of go in the short-term future? You can't challenge Roman right away. Ricochet's got the IC title, so that'd be a pretty cool match.
I wonder if he's going to lose it next week.
Next week, we learn that Ricochet will be facing Jinder Mahal randomly.
I like the idea of IC champion Jinder Mahal.
With zero build, though? Come on.
Here's the build. Jinder is on an ABC television series called Big Sky. There's your build. Jinder Mahal. And he's going to turn babyface when he does it, too. Big time star, Jinder Mahal.
I do think he deserves better than he's gotten. I'm not usually in favor of cold title changes like that. We got DJ pointing out this is something I overlooked. At least he's saying the name change could be for Ludwig, could be an homage to the late Ludwig Borga, former WWE star.
It's not an homage to the Hellraiser from Helsinki, Ludwig Borga. I promise.
At the very least, it's an overlap.
It is an overlap. I can guarantee you those are the only two Ludwigs in WWE history. Well, what a great name. And honestly, like, if I didn't know who Marcel Bartel was, I wouldn't care.
Right.
You know, because like Ludwig Kaiser isn't a bad name on the surface, but I don't know.
It was funny. So they had Ludwig in this case come out, introduces Gunther. Gunther comes to the ring, and then as they have been doing for the past several weeks, they have like the pre-commercial segment name. It's usually like Ronda, blah 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 or whatever. In this case, it was Gunther invades SmackDown. I was like, I don't know if he had to do invade. Already kind of. Yeah, exactly. This is going around. Eddie's saying it's kind of like a German soldier name.
What's his last name?
This is Kaiser. But at first, first report from Fightful Select was that it'd be like Klaus, which would be kind of worse.
Maybe Gunther Klaus. Like Gunther Klaus. Like he could be like Santa Claus, but just a lot more vicious.
It should just be Walter, but that's here.
Walter Klaus.
Here to there. But we're talking about all these changes. There is looking for another one as well. There's some more of the same. Lacey Evans coming back to SmackDown. She had a pre-tape promo tonight, which was taped from what looked to be a B-movie military bunker. Cut a promo about her background, her difficult childhood, some of the obstacles she's overcome. Very emotional. Definitely added some layers to the character, some realness, which was good. I think this was a lot better than the one we last saw her. She was Ric Flair's side piece.
Dude, with Ric Flair something. You never exactly
Oh.
got what that was.
Yeah.
Because Ric Flair was like, yeah, call me daddy. And then they were like, of course it's not Ric Flair's baby. But that
And
was
she was
weird.
never seen again for over a year. Good emotional promo. Definitely, again, complete babyface turn. Just saying her new gimmick is like her real life. She's a mother. She's served in the Marines. You know, this is good. Again, to me, I would say better than what we were getting. Apparently, just like Alexa Bliss's therapy vignette, this will continue next week with another story time with Lacey Evans.
So they're going back to the 90s, like the 80s, 90s with a lot of the stuff. Like they're very focused on vignettes and really heavy character pieces, which I love. I'm a huge fan of, except you have to capitalize on them.
Yeah. I mean, there is something interesting here, just looking maybe way beyond, maybe even months at this point. I mean, could he build her up as a face and have her face Charlotte? And could be a story there. Well, actually, they could circle back to what was that, last year? The Rick and Lacey and Charlotte thing. Like,
yeah, they can certainly circle back to last year. I think that's crazy, but they can.
Indirectly, say we still got some beef. But we got Nez just saying 80s wrestling's the best. Herman saying old school wrestling rules. So we got some support for this more old school feel here. But what do you think about Lacey Evans being back? Like,
she's an effective babyface. Her daughter and Sasha Banks had one of the most fun interactions of the pre-COVID 2020. Like, it's a good fit. She is the all-American girl, but again, I have to say, we're going back to 80s, 90s with characters, and that's why I really think, Lacey can have a good shot at becoming champion because she is an all-American girl. Cody is so all-American, it's on his neck, and I think I'm willing to bet, honestly, that they looked at that and went, we can make a star with that. I think Lacey Evans coming back is awesome. I think whether she's a heel or babyface remains to be seen. You need opponents, though. And you have to hope that the division only gets stronger and more robust.
Speaking of which, very good segue. Steven says, what's going on with Bayley and Asuka? Thought they were medically cleared. I thought they were.
Bayley not coming out on Monday night shocked me. And then Asuka not coming out on Monday night, when I think the line that Bianca actually used was, nobody's ready for me. I was like, oh my God. Asuka can just show up right here, and she didn't. So I don't know. We will see. Obviously, Bayley's it's a matter of time.
Yeah, Bayley was in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend. I think she was literally there at the show. I remember seeing her tweet something like that where she was there. So I would have to think, at least she'll be back soon. Otherwise, I don't really know. But as you said, Robert, both / either would definitely make the SmackDown side of things a little more robust. But overall, they would be more, that's more depth, and especially kind of their star power definitely help. It's weird though. This SmackDown really felt like what Raw after Mania should be.
Oh yeah, I mean, and if you needed any reassurance that SmackDown is now the A show, you can look at the build to WrestleMania, and then this week, Raw's closing segment was literally Roman saying, "Watch SmackDown." SmackDown had 3-4 debuts. Yeah. And had somebody actually interrupt Roman Reigns. SmackDown is the A show.
Wild times, and like I've myself have said that before, but now to really kind of, at least what it feels like, to see that kind of really come to fruition. Again, as you said, Roman literally said, "Oh, watch SmackDown because that's the bigger show of really." Yeah, I mean, I hope maybe we can hope for a little more of this on Raw this week. Maybe it doesn't have to be the night of WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania season, but I'm like I said, I'm encouraged. Like new faces, new talent, like a little more, fresh blood, I guess, for lack of a better word. Michael's saying for the Lacey coming back, some other changes here. It's better division, but no build up for Xia Li or Shotzi. Aaliyah briefly got a push as the world record breaker, but no, they do have some fresh faces there that have not been really utilized. Xia's been in several dark matches. Shotzi hasn't really been doing anything, so they've got talent there.
Xia is kind of what I was talking about with. I love the vignettes. Now you got to use them.
Yeah.
Shotzi, I think, is a merchandising machine. She's the perfect, like, punk rock alt girl to push, or at least to have on the roster, especially since they didn't keep Ruby, which I really thought they should have. And obviously, she does great work in AEW. But Shotzi should be getting more of a push. And who's the person you mentioned? Xia Li. Oh, and Aaliyah. I'm just glad that Aaliyah didn't stay in NXT forever. She will keep that world record probably for decades to come.
How can you beat it? It was like 3.14 seconds. Like,
they won't beat it until they need to just say it was beaten. Like, then somebody will beat him in 3.9 seconds, and they're like, it's crazy, it's a new record.
I don't know how they're gonna do it. It seems impossible to me, but hey, you never know, anything's possible. But we're talking about all these changes, all these exciting new things. But Robert, we got one thing that's not a change. That is very much more of the same. The show opened with a Ronda Rousey promo, and she was talking about how she made Charlotte tap out of WrestleMania, but it didn't count. The referee didn't see it, so she lost. She took the blame for that and said she wants to face Charlotte in an I Quit match at WrestleMania Backlash. Charlotte responds and says no, and says, go back to the line. And Ronda says, oh, this fight will happen. And when it does, I'm going to bend your arm or your elbow backwards. Later in the show, Ronda confronts Adam Pearce, who says that he'll have an answer potentially tomorrow.
Which means
they're going to leak it or announce it tomorrow, I guess.
On Talking Smack, they'll announce breaking news. We've confirmed that Charlotte will face Ronda in an I Quit match. I like it. I wish that their WrestleMania match wasn't filled with so much gaga. Like, they had the most to working against them. They were sandwiched in between a lot of great stuff. Cody and the Bianca Becky match was nearly untouchable. And they were going to, nobody was going to remember anything anyway because Austin was going to wrestle. So Charlotte and Ronda were up a creek without a paddle, but I think they can have a lot of fun at Backlash.
Friend of the show, Radiant, with a very good point about why would you open the show with someone who lost at WrestleMania? At least have Charlotte come out, have Ronda confront her, or I don't know, something else. But to open the show with someone who lost, it's a bit of a weird look.
I mean, I keep seeing people say, well, she lost. It was very clear that Charlotte Flair tapped out. It's not like they're stretching here. Charlotte tapped out. They did the right thing. They did the dusty finish. It was as good as you were going to get. And you're opening the show with Ronda because, they had already said they were going to close it with Roman. But I get it.
It's that. I mean, I saw that. I think everyone saw this coming after WrestleMania with that finish. But this is not a feud that I myself really wanted to see more of. The storyline heading into WrestleMania really didn't do it for me. The match was fine. As you said, it was probably the best one could hope for. And as you said, it was also competing with a bunch of other really cool stuff. So it's probably bound to feel a little bit of a drop off no matter what. But now to think we're going to get another, literally from today's April 8th. So I think Backlash is May 8th. So that's a month essentially of more of the storyline. I really don't want to see another month of this. What else is there to do? They're already kind of stretching it a little bit for WrestleMania, and that was when they were building from essentially, first week of February through then. I guess I'm concerned about spinning their wheels and doing more of the same. They brawled. They've got my titles are more cuter than your baby.
I think with with it being Backlash, you can make them a central focus. Because all due respect to the person who came out to challenge Roman, I think they are a world championship caliber competitor, but they have not been booked like one. So I think that this could be the main event of Backlash. And I think you up the intensity. You have them just fighting on site. Like I remember there was a build to the Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and Triple H in '04 where they couldn't be in the same vicinity of one another without beating the shit out of each other. And I think you need that kind of intensity here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope we get it. I'd like to be wrong. If they up the intensity and they find cover cool ways to do that, I'm all for it. And I hope that, the match itself, and I quit match definitely, opens the door for more creativity at least. I think I could surpass the WrestleMania match. So there's that. But this is kind of what I was saying with DJ with a good idea about you could have Charlotte open and then have her Bray Wyatt win, and then the crowd could chant, "You tapped out." Then Ronda could come out and be like, "You did tap out." But we got Eddie saying Ronda's a draw no matter what. So in that case, it does kind of make sense.
Yeah, and I don't like the "you tapped out" chants. Like I think those are cheesy. But that's just me. Like
crowds in the crowd. We had crowds cheering their heads off for Madcap Moss tonight, which I don't think anybody saw coming. Although he was in there with Happy Corbin, so maybe, to some extent. But now we might as well talk about that, right? We had a big parting of ways, I guess. Tonight on SmackDown was the day the laughter died because Happy Corbin, tired of Madcap Moss's jokes, told him to tell him a joke, didn't like it, gave him a chance, told him tell me a joke like your job depends on it. And Moss, he had a line about what would you call Adam Pearce if he ran a brothel, and this wasn't working. And eventually he turned on Corbin and said, like, "Oh, you're dressed like you're going to a funeral for Tommy Bahama." And then Corbin attacked him. They brawl. Moss walks away. Crowd goes crazy. So the crowd was actually feeling it. But this comedic duo is no more.
I like that you dress like you're going to a funeral for Tommy Bahama. I think that's actually funny. This is fine, right? Like, you tell me a joke like your job depends on it. What was his job title exactly underneath Baron Corbin?
Maybe he employed him as maybe he kept him on retainer as like a stand-up comedian. So he was kind of there. And he happened to get involved in the matches sometimes.
That's not a bad gig. I mean, honestly, I know some stand-up comedians that would like to get booked that thoroughly. This is good. Riddick Moss is great. Lose the Madcap, get your name back, be Riddick Moss. You've got all the tools that can make a world champion.
Yeah.
I also think Baron Corbin has all the tools to be a world champion. He just needs to be, the lone wolf and not the looking like he's dressed for senior day at some diner.
I really do hope that moving forward here, they do repack. If not a complete repackage, at least kind of shift gears and retool Moss a little bit. Steven saying give him new gear. Eddie's saying repackage him to be a more serious character. I do not want to see Madcap Moss, the baby face, trying to be funny and then either being corny funny or still not being funny. I do hope, but it's Riddick Moss, more legitimate, just a baby face, right? Someone the people can get behind. You mentioned Corbin could be a world champion as the lone wolf. DC Hunt saying Corbin needs to be broke again. I thought we kind of saw a little bit of the sad sack Corbin tonight. He was a little bummed out about losing to Drew McIntyre. So I thought we saw a little bit of that, but Herman agrees about the lone wolf. So it feels like, a little different.
Yeah, I just this man is, I don't know how tall Baron Corbin is, but he's close to 7. He's a big dude with Golden Gloves boxing experience. And why is he a joke?
I don't know. It's always he kind of gets thrust in these joke-like characters. And in a way, I feel like it feels like he might be kind of typecast at this point. And I don't know how he can get out of that, but he always does his best with it, and he makes it work as best he can. As I said before, I really enjoy the sad sack Corbin thing. Not so much for the happy Corbin, but maybe this too will be short lived. But more support for the lone wolf can have him grow his hair out even. I don't know about that, but some little shakeup could be nice. Does feel like we're going to see this two feud kind of moving forward here. Would make sense. That's
They will be in Money in the Bank, and I'm sure they'll be one of the more. By the time we get to Money in the Bank, there'll be a tired feud.
I mean, yeah, that's in July and it's April now, so
that's in June. No, Hell in
that's
Cell's in June. Never mind what I said.
Got a long way to go. So hopefully not. Hopefully they wrap it up. Maybe they can kind of circle back in the match and tease a little bit. But like, I don't want to see them feud for 3 months. That's a little much for me. But again, some support for Madcap Moss here. I did reminding us that when Paul Heyman was running Raw, Madcap was one of the guys who was pretty high on. So
yep.
That's pretty glowing endorsement. So we'll see. They've clearly pushed him. They clearly think highly of him. He's been featured pretty prominently.
He lost the 24/7 title because R-Truth didn't respect social distancing guidelines in the thick of the pandemic. I mean, like, this poor man deserves all the goodness in the world.
You know who else deserves all the goodness in the world? The New Day, who had a match this week on SmackDown, coming off a very, very disappointing WrestleMania weekend for them. I'll say they were chopped from the show on night 1 due to I guess a match is running over, and they were put on night 2, and the match was very, very short, and they lost very, very decisively to Sheamus and Ridge Holland, which I thought one of the more disappointing parts of the show. And then we got a rematch or a continuation this week. It was Xavier Woods, no longer the King, which is
great. Bullshit, but go ahead.
Not great. Facing Butch, the artist formerly known as Pete Dunne. This was Dunne/Butch's first match on the main roster. Good match, as you would expect. Two very good wrestlers doing what they do. Woods wins with a roll-up, and then Butch threw a tantrum after the match. He slapped Sheamus, he slapped Holland, and then he sat in the corner, and then Michael Cole literally said, like a child. So, and I've seen this comparison going around a lot. Butch is essentially Scrappy-Doo, which is not the best look for Pete Dunne.
Who said
it's all over the place. I'm seeing it like all over the Twitter timeline.
Butch does not deserve to be compared to Scrappy-Doo. Okay,
well, he's Butch. He's like Scrappy-Doo dressed like he's in Newsies.
It's so bad.
It's bad.
It's so bad.
And then we got, before the match even happened, you got Sheamus and Holland kind of hyping him up. Like, Sheamus was like, it's fight night. It's fight night. It's like, they got the 3 dudes with hats, and it's fight night. Got their own Fight Club thing going. All right. It's not, I don't know. Again, we said it the first night this was the thing. I don't see this, working in terms of, actually establishing Butch as an actual, a legitimate competitor. We have Steven saying WWE just butchered Pete Dunne's career. It's one of my favorite jokes about Pete Dunne at this point. DJ thinks the Butch and Sheamus and Ridge Holland alliance will be short-lived after a little tantrum we saw tonight. At least some signs of dissension, and usually when WWE does stuff like that, it does seem to be kind of a clear progression of sorts. My only response to that would be I wouldn't want that, because then he's just going to be Butch by himself, which is kind of worse, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't want him to be Butch by himself. He needs to. I like the pairing. The pairing isn't bad. It's 3 rough Europeans who are gonna beat the crap out of each other. Eventually, you stick them with Gunther and Ludwig. That's a hell of a Survivor Series team. Yeah. I don't know who you put them against, but that's a lot of fun. They're just 5 Europeans who can just beat the crap out of people, and that's, for me anyway, that's fun.
When the report came out about Gunther and, in this case, Ludwig, getting called up to SmackDown, I kind of thought, you've got, this trio of Europeans, maybe there's something there. But yeah, at least for a Survivor Series one-off.
You put them against, Drew, Moss, New Day, and someone else, and I like that. That's a match I'd probably watch. Maybe Nakamura, I'd watch that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I agree with Steven here saying the pairing isn't bad. Pairing isn't bad in itself, but the name change, and for me, I'll say just the attire / just kind of the presentation. Not that I'm not knocking suspenders, but just all of it put together. I don't know. It's not to turn it around. I'm not enjoying it so far. DJ points out if they split up, if they have Butch on his own, they could rename him again. they could, but usually it feels like WWE doesn't like admit, not that it's admitting failure, but like they wouldn't, I wouldn't think, bring someone up, rename them drastically, and then, if we're already saying, oh, they might be splitting this group up, then what, in a month they'll be Pete Dunne? Like, then why was he Butch in the first place? Like, that's just, I think it's kind of a lose-lose. I like the idea from Eddie saying that it could be Imperium versus Sheamus, Holland, and Butch, although both groups are very clearly healed at this point, and I don't really see either as baby faces. Imperium maybe at some point, but like both are like, especially tonight, Imperium was very much like they're invading SmackDown. They're like framed like this very like old school heel kind of thing. So maybe down the road, and I mean they do heel versus heel things all the time, so maybe they'll find a reason to have a match. I think that'd be fun, no doubt about that. But speaking, we mentioned Drew McIntyre a minute ago. He had a match against Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn had a promo backstage before the match, and he had a slice of cheese because Johnny Knoxville used a giant mouse trap to beat him at WrestleMania on Sunday. Very chaotic, and
that was real quick. That was my favorite WrestleMania match this year.
Really?
That was so much fun. Anyone who looks at that and says, "Well, this is a joke," look at your surroundings, pal. Look at what's actually being presented as pro wrestling. I think Giant Knoxville doing jackass things at WrestleMania was so much fun. And I mean, it was just such a moment, and it'll never be forgotten. Good for Kevin and Sami.
Yeah, they crushed it. That was overall one of the coolest parts of WrestleMania. Both guys very, very talented, very, loyal because they would be something to be signed. Getting rewarded like that with these two, high profile matches, and they delivered. Very, very cool. And then to see the kind of the continuation, the continuity tonight with the slice of cheese, a little goofy, but as you said, like, it was literally, it's goofy for like on purpose. Like they're leaning into that. It was fun. And Sami said he wants his respect back. He was humiliated. He got beat with a mousetrap. So he pointed right outside the locker room, him and Adam Pearce. And he said, all right, whoever the first person that walks through that locker room, I'm gonna kick their ass. I'm gonna put respect on my name and show everyone that I'm serious. And the door opens, and it's Drew McIntyre. I'm like, hey, that's actually like a fun setup for a match. Like, Sami Zayn, entertaining. Drew McIntyre comes out. Like, I much prefer something like that and just randomly saying, all right, we're gonna have have the entrance to start. Okay, all right, everyone, it's time for Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn for no reason. I like having matches happen for a reason, Robert. I like when things are motivated. So the very least here,
Colin, are you saying you like logic in your program?
I love logic. I'm a lover of logic. I'm a big fan of when things make sense, of when things are done for a reason. Michael saying could have been a fun spot for like someone to debut, at LA Knight. I do hope that the report about LA Knight getting called up is true.
He might as well. I mean, he's been a TV star for over a decade. I'm sure he's fantastic.
Yeah, but in this case, it was Drew McIntyre. They had a match, and Sami fairly quickly ran away into the crowd. For a split second, I thought like Johnny Knoxville was going to attack him or something. I'm like, why is he going up to the crowd? But he was just getting out of dodge. And then they announced a rematch for next week, when in theory Sami could do the exact same thing, but maybe we'll get a little more time and it'll be a good match. I just think it could be a full feud here. I mean, I think this could delay what Eddie, another comment I'm going to feed into, saying we get a full feud here, but as well, also Eddie's saying he thought Drew McIntyre will be the next one for Roman Reigns, based on what they're doing at live events lately, but maybe WWE's kind of trying to hold that off a little bit. I mean, if you do think about it, it's April now. Essentially, we've got to get through, I would say Roman will probably keep the title until at least SummerSlam. So you're going to have to kind of get through this summer stretch, and you're going to need multiple opponents ideally. So I think that'll make sense. So we saw Shinsuke going to confront him, and that kind of set up a little something there. We'll talk about in a minute. But
who do you think, if you had to choose right now, who beats Roman Reigns?
The only person at this sitting here right here today that I think would make sense based on what we're seeing this week is Cody Rhodes, which feels like a very weird thing to say, but comes out on Raw, says he wants to win the world title for Dusty and himself and his family. Cuts a promo. The crowd's loving him so far. The crowd is all aboard the Cody Rhodes train. They're feeling it. The WWE themselves are framing him as a big star. So he has quickly become, and pretty much as soon as he arrived, like kind of, and the way he was been presented, it feels like he's being framed as one of the top guys, and he just kind of needs to back it up with a couple more matches. You know, here to beat Seth Rollins, so you know, some more of that. I've seen this going around. Steven saying Cody could win Money in the Bank and do it that way.
No.
Well,
Cody Rhodes.
We talked about this on Tuesday. He could win Money in the Bank and then do it the John Cena way and just cash in ahead of time and say, "Hey, I got the briefcase. I'm going to cash in at SummerSlam. We're going to have a match."
Cody Rhodes belongs in a main event at WrestleMania. If Cody Rhodes wins Money in the Bank, he needs to say this: I don't care if it's Roman. I don't care if it's anyone. I'm in the main event. I am the main event of one of the nights of WrestleMania. That's the answer. That's how you get through Cody Rhodes winning Money in the Bank. Because to me, it has to be a point at the sign, fireworks go off, Cody Rhodes to go to WrestleMania.
Like a Royal Rumble win?
Like, I would do a Royal Rumble win, but if you really don't feel like waiting a year, then he wins Money in the Bank, but he has to announce, I'm cashing in at Mania. Because they've had a couple of people do that, but they never had people actually stick to their word.
Yeah. Eddie's saying in terms of that question you just asked me, saying Cody or Drew McIntyre. I am not knocking Drew McIntyre. I don't want him to be the guy that beats Roman Reigns. Like, I want whoever beats Roman to be someone new that like shakes things up. We saw Drew essentially for 2 years, basically carry Raw. It's absolute face of Raw, week in, week out. Did a great job. Basically carried WWE through the pandemic era. Can never be thanked enough for that. Amazing. He's sitting here now. I'm like, I don't really want to go right back to that. Especially again, whoever beats Roman, it needs to be a big deal. It needs to be like something really special. I'm like, Drew, it's not it. We've seen that at Survivor Series 2020, and granted, they haven't run it back since, but that doesn't really do it for me. Like Cody, at least it's like it's more interesting, it's more fresh, it's more, you've got that story they've already started to tell. DJ going for the night Gunther debut saying it could be Gunther, but that would maybe, if they want to have Roman to hold the title for like another year plus, that would. I mean, if all goes well, they could build them quickly. But again, for whoever beats Roman's got to be some like really big. Michael's saying there's no one really left other than The Rock. As Roman mentioned, there's no. I guess in this case means for things for Roman to do. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's got a point. Roman has pretty much beaten everybody, other than in this case Cody, and then he hasn't defended the title against Drew. Eddie points out they do have the UK pay-per-view in September, so that would make sense. You could have Drew win it there. At least they're like, okay, better than just like a random pay-per-view, but I would not be the happiest camper if that's how this went down. That's what I'll say. If you had to pick one, what would you say?
It's either Drew or Cody. I think so. If we're really running with the Rocket Mania, obviously the Cody thing or the title loss can't happen at Mania. I really want Cody to win the Rumble, so I'm gonna say McIntyre beats Roman Reigns in his present-day hometown of Nashville at SummerSlam. Defends successfully in the UK, or maybe not even against Roman. Maybe he fights Tyson Fury in the UK. I know they say that every time they get an interview. I think Cody versus McIntyre can tell a great story of two guys who left WWE to make a name for themselves. You can turn Drew heel for that. I can book you the road to WrestleMania, but I'm not going to waste everybody's time here and do that. I think Cody beats Drew at WrestleMania.
I remember when I was a kid, they were the Rhodes Scholars, and I loved that team. So there's some fun history there. So I'm thinking of the right team. Well, I don't know if I'm with the Rhodes Scholars,
weren't the Rhodes Scholars, but they were a tag team.
Champions. That's
yes,
right.
They were a tag team.
I like this idea from Eddie. I hope that they have to do this at some point. Run back Cody and Randy Orton. Have to do it. The legacy.
I pitched that for the minute I heard Cody left AEW, I said, screw it, put the belt on Randy right now and do Cody and Randy at WrestleMania. Because I knew Cody was coming for the belt they've done this way better than I could have ever imagined. But I want Cody and Randy. Like, that's another world title feud.
That'd be really cool. I would like to see that. We got a couple, some off the wall, some more realistic. Scott George here. If you want to really build up a new star, you could do Braun Breaker. You really build him up. Eventually, again, think of the timeline. Not sure in terms of we've seen him on Raw. He just regained the NXT title, so I would imagine that wouldn't be until probably next year. If that happens. We got DJ saying push Jinder again. Don't hinder the Jinder. Have him beat Roman. Don't know about that. But anything
Why not?
Now, like Jinder, the Jinder Mahal thing, I think that was like kind of a once in a lifetime thing. I don't know if you can recapture that magic. He could very well win the IC title. He could maybe get a tag title run. And like I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. Like anybody deserves it. Like he's been a company guy. He's done it before. If they book him right, hey, why not? I don't know about that. Kevin, if Brock comes back, Cody versus Brock, that'd be interesting. I don't know how that would go, but it's a big money match for sure. There are a lot of possibilities here. At the very least, there's no doubt about that. Speaking of the road to WrestleMania, another idea. We got Steven saying Lashley could win the Rumble and do something there. Again, I think Lashley could definitely.
Yeah, Lashley. Never thought I'd say this, but like I think Lashley over the last year has proven that he's a top guy. He doesn't need a Rumble win. I think, I know it's so early, but like men's Rumble has to be Cody. Women's Rumble should be either Sasha or Bayley because they need to check that off their list.
I just don't know. I guess it's a toss-up, right? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's still so early. Like for all we know, they give a major push to Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan is entering WrestleMania as women's champion, and that changes everything.
Yeah,
for Cody, never know.
For Cody, it's weird because, like, again, we've only seen him twice so far on WWE. I mentioned the toss-up. It's like I don't know if they wait that long. I don't necessarily trust that they're going to, keep handling Cody the right way, 50-50 losses, bad storylines or whatever. Whereas if they do it too soon, like a SummerSlam, granted, that's still a couple months away, if it's that it wouldn't necessarily pay off as much. So it is a bit of a, pros and cons situation there. Got a bunch of love for Veer. I don't know if Veer's going to be the one who beats Roman. Don't know about that, my friend.
No, I think Veer's already come. I don't know what his staying power is.
I mean, he's going to come again this Monday. Going to be facing Rey Mysterio.
I mean, we know that he's going to come again this Monday. He's going to take on all comers. We got it. But how long will that energy hold up?
It's true. It took him what, like 3-4 months to come to Raw in the first place. So we'll find out. But in all the comments, people are interested in Cody Rhodes. Just to say the obvious, people are excited about it. A lot of options you've got. They have a number of ways they could go. Again, I'm hopeful. Again, we saw the new faces on SmackDown tonight. Cody has added some fresh energy to Raw, shake things up a little bit. And a number of fresh matchups you got there. He'll be facing The Miz this week. That's pretty cool.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big match. I'm looking forward to that. But obviously, the elephant in the room here, the last thing you mentioned Liv Morgan. I'll talk about that for a minute. Liv Morgan beat Sasha Banks in a singles match. So
shocking, but yes.
Yeah, pretty much beat her clean. Essentially a roll-up, but good match. Pin Sasha Banks, one of their top stars. So as I mentioned a minute ago, maybe they're going to they already have kind of pushed Liv Morgan more than they were, but maybe they're going to keep that momentum going. They're going to get a women's tag title match on Monday. Seems pretty obvious that Rhea Ripley's going to turn on her, but maybe moving forward there, we'll get a more successful singles push for Liv Morgan. But a good match, good for her to beat Sasha Banks. As you said, a little surprising, but I'm I guess more in favor of that because at least there it's like you're setting up. Oh well, the challenger just beat the champion, so maybe there's a chance, and adds a little bit of the suspension of disbelief. But good match. Still feels like an inevitability on Monday. But then this week, Robert, on SmackDown, unlike on Raw, we had some payoff to Roman Reigns' long-awaited message. On Raw, we had to wait 3 hours for him to tell us to watch SmackDown on Friday. On SmackDown, we waited little under 2 hours for Roman to come out and say that, he beat Brock, acknowledge me. And he said, as after I unify the titles, there's not much for me to do, but hey, I see the Usos. I see their one set of titles. I see another set of tag team titles over on Raw. And he literally said, it's time to unify the tag team titles. So very clearly, that's where we're going. The Usos said they're going to go to Raw in Detroit. And seems like we're going to get, well, at least if not on Raw this week itself, that's the direction we're heading. And I think that's a very good thing because they don't have enough depth in the tag team division on either brand to really support individual titles at this point.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to merge the brands sooner than later. The Usos vs. RK Bro is great at Survivor Series. It's been great on Raw. It can be great at Backlash.
Yeah. I guess the -1 for the fact that they ran that match back at WrestleMania Raw. If they we're going to do this anyway, it's like you could have had something else. Maybe had an 8-man tag and had other teams in there or something. I don't know. It's going to be a great match. I think this is good. I agree that again, even if it's not even official, just simply unifying the titles, it does make it feel like a definite softening of the brand split here. I think that's beneficial as well. It was WrestleMania Raw. We have Roman on the show, Sasha Banks on the show. To me, the shows are better when you can have all your top stars on them. And even if it's not everybody, at least again, the Unified Champion, it's okay, that's some more crossover. It's that's good. I do think the idea for this title unification saying make it a ladder match. That'd be fun. That way nobody gets pinned. Ladder matches are fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think losing the Raw tag titles too is a good way to start splitting up Randy and Riddle.
Yeah.
Cody's here. Randy needs to be a solo to have that match with Cody at some point.
Yeah.
It should be good stuff. I'm excited to see where this goes.
I agree. We got Scott George saying he's not liking Roman and Usos keeping all titles hostage. I mean, if the Usos do win, if they do beat RK Bro and unified tag titles, I mean, unlike Roman, I feel like they could essentially lose the tag titles anytime. That's much less, not to knock them, but Roman Reigns' historic, huge deal of his universal title reign, and in this case now the unified title reign. The Usos, they've had a very remarkable run, but they could essentially lose any time. That's much easier to kind of just happen, right? It's much less of this moment in a way, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not as big of a deal of they've held the titles for so long, and I can't think of who could possibly beat them. It's no, you could do that on a throwaway pay-per-view, and yeah, it's still a big deal, but I do think there's a difference there. But I do like the idea of having the Usos win because that would set up the story for RK Bro. I like that. It's good. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Shinsuke Nakamura came out, and Roman said, hey, man, I know what it's like to have a tag team partner go down with an injury. Rick Boogs went down with the torn quad, whatever. He hurt his leg really badly.
Torn quad.
And got surgery. Definitely thoughts going out to Rick Boogs there. That's a pretty serious injury, so hopefully he recovers as soon as possible. And then Roman said, but we have all the gold, so the island of relevancy is now a loving, compassionate place. So bring it in. Get some of this love. He hugs him. The Usos blast Nakamura with a double super kick, to which Pat McAfee said, super kick party. Nice little Easter egg there. And the show ended.
Go with it.
The show ended.
That's cool. I love Nakamura. Nakamura versus Roman, if they give it enough time, should be great. Roman fought Cesaro last year. That was a lot of fun. We could do it again, but with Nakamura. I like where we're going. We got Cody. I assume he's going to fight Rollins again.
I would like
Backlash. Got the tag champions unifying. Got Charlotte, Ronda, I quit. Bianca's got to fight somebody at some point. And yeah, I like where we're going.
Yeah. I mean, I'm encouraged. We got some new faces, new energy, things, again, changing. It's good. I'm liking it. And again, usually WrestleMania Backlash is in a lot of ways kind of the Backlash. It's you're usually going to get several rematches and a lot of continuation, excessively so. In this case, I like the idea of doing more with Rollins and Cody. I think there's definitely more of a pronounced story to be told there. I like that. Charlotte Ronda, at least again, that makes sense. And we got some other, maybe some fresh matchups as well here, or at least, not WrestleMania rematches. So there's some shake up. I like the idea from Eddie. So maybe LA Knight could be Shinsuke's manager.
No.
Ooh.
No.
No,
That's not a good idea. That's not like LA Knight needs to just be LA Knight. I mean, I get he's a little on the older side, but he can be a good wrestler for a good number of years. He doesn't need to be a manager for Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't need a manager. One of the funniest things he's ever done on WWE television is say, no understand English. Like, I thought that was great. That was like one of the last funny things he did. They just ruined it because he kept punching AJ Styles in the balls, which didn't need to happen. But no, we don't need it. Nakamura doesn't need a manager. Nakamura just needs a fight. And I think Roman will give him a good one.
Yeah. So it does feel like kind of that's where we're going. Going to be a good match. Hopefully the story is interesting as well. I'm a big fan of LA Knight, by the way. I hope that he does get a chance to shine either at least not as a manager. I mean, I think he has the promo skills to do that, but he's a wrestler. Like he's a big star in the waiting. Like they can definitely really do something with him. I hope. I mean, I have some concern that he might have like a Robert Roode like run where he might get like a little shine off the bat and then he might kind of fade, which is not great. I think he's very, very talented. I think he deserves to get pushed and deserves to be featured. But we'll see. He hasn't even got called up yet officially, so he was not one of the new faces tonight. But with all this in mind, Robert, definitely an eventful night tonight on SmackDown, which is always appreciated. What did you think about this one, all things considered?
I think it was a step in the right direction. It feels like we're getting some fresh air on the main roster, and I'm here for it. So I'll give it a 7. Wasn't like over the moon with it, but I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling encouraged. More than usual coming out of WrestleMania, which was a better show than I expected. The multiple call-ups tonight, at least the intrigue, if you will, of Lacey Evans coming back, potentially more with LA Knight, maybe Raquel Rodriguez as well. Gunther, again, new faces, changes in the air, some hangover from WrestleMania, but some shake-up as well, which is welcome. Herman with a 6.5, Steven with a 6 as well here. So not a bad show, better than the Raw of WrestleMania. We got definitely a better sense of like where we're going, which is much appreciated. It's good. I like when SmackDown's good, Robert. I like when
good things are good, Colin. I find that that's a good philosophy in life. Good things are good.
It is. And that's with a 7 as well. DJ with 7.75, and DJ asked Robert what your thoughts about Veer's long-awaited coming was on Raw.
What were my thoughts about Veer's long-awaited coming? Well, I mean, the man came and he came pretty hard, but I just hope that it holds. You know what I mean? Like, cool. He's here. The place popped. He came all over the place. But now what's next?
Right. What's next?
What's next? Honestly, and shout out to Jeremy Lambert for maybe the greatest headline ever. And if you didn't see it, just go ahead and search Fightful.com for what Veer did. And I mean, Jeremy had the whole wrestling industry talking. Veer came, Colin, and God, the world was just in awe.
Oh man, I'm gonna miss, like, in a way I'll miss the meme, all the jokes and everything. But we can.
I don't think the jokes are gonna die. I think for the rest of his career, Veer is coming. Is all that's gonna be his career when he enters the Royal Rumble. Oh my God, Veer is coming. It's just all that. When's the next time this guy's gonna come? Which is
beautiful,
amazing.
Beautiful.
Which is honestly like. They tried to write shtick that wasn't this good.
Right. Yeah, DJ saying Veer finally left IKEA. That's also the funniest wrinkle. He was just stuck in IKEA for
Veer's just sitting in IKEA.
months.
Oh, sometimes I come here and they just let me sit around and sit on the furniture. Okay, sure.
Oh, it's fun. On a less fun topic, should probably mention, yes, Nash Carter was released. Just because of the tag titles got relinquished today. We got a question about Michael. Yeah. Let's touch on it a little bit.
They were magically relinquished. WWE for some reason, has not found the ability to formulate a statement saying they released someone, even when they're completely in the right. Oh yeah, we released Nash Carter due to unprofessional conduct. We take the conduct of our superstars very seriously. Done. It did like whatever happens, your bases are covered. But no, the champions have relinquished their titles. What kind of weird thing is that?
It's weird.
I don't know. I think it's going to be on Waller and Sanga because they were going to have a match for the titles anyway, but we'll see.
But like Waller hurt his shoulder, supposedly, and
Sanga, but Sanga can do all the work.
But they're not a tag team.
But that's the gimmick. That's the gimmick. Like, hey, this is my heavy, and he's gonna do all the work, but I'm gonna parade around like I'm a champion.
I don't know. I feel like NXT more than the main roster, like always gets hit with like stuff going sideways. Like just you got Samoa Joe having to relinquish the title last year. It feels like stuff always happens. Not like this specifically. It's like titles being forced to be vacated or in this case relinquished. It's just unfortunate, especially like in a way it came at a bad time because Imperium somewhat just got called up. Fabian, I get them mixed up. Fabian's still there. So
Fabian Eichner is the one that's still there. Marcel Bartel got called up and is now Ludwig Kaiser.
So at this point, they've got the Creed brothers who won the Dusty Cup, so that would make some sense as an emergency replacement, essentially. They got Jacket Time. No thanks.
Man, maybe they need to pair them with Veer. Gonna just leave that there.
No.
Gonna just leave that there.
Alfred, no.
You're welcome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's like you got Kushida and Ikemanjiro. You got Sanga and Waller. Wesley can find a partner, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They
got
the Creed brothers and Pretty Deadly.
Oh yeah, they showed up. So yeah, it just feels like they don't have as much depth as I thought they did. Like they had 3 solid teams a week ago, and now Imperium's called up. MSK's no more, or unless West finds a partner. National wants to see the Jacket Time as the champions, but
I don't want Jacket Time as the champions. I like Kushida being in a random. Hey, get it? We're just 2 Japanese guys. We're a Jacket Time. It's very strange.
It's very strange. Michael showing some love pretty deftly. DJ brings up, the situation being about the abuse allegations, allegedly asking if Nash could be brought back. Yes.
I think the company has made a pretty strong statement by letting him go. I think there's always a chance if his name gets cleared and it's absolutely proven that everything he was accused of is, unfounded. But I wouldn't hold my breath.
No, cases like this feels like, especially to like not like next week. It's not going to they're not going to turn right around and be like, oh, hey, I'd be very like. I again could, maybe, will,
maybe someday, but I don't know.
Yeah, Nash brings up Enzo Amore. I mean, different situation, but I don't know. It's a weird thing when stuff like this happens, and especially this one. It's a very crappy situation, and it's kind of hard to tell what's what. But Michael points out pretty much no tolerance policy. Supposedly he got released because of a picture where he was sporting a Hitler-like mustache and, making an obscene gesture. Not a good look, obviously. So that's kind of hard to come. Even though it was a resurfaced photo, it's still, WWE is, as you said, Robert, they kind of feel like they made their statement. They handled it as they wanted, as that's their prerogative. So onward we go. Speaking of which, back in business here, John and I will be here on Monday for the Raw post show. John will be back at Raw the following week, but this week we'll should have normal week.
John is the most busy person, isn't he?
He is. He went to every single show.
God bless him.
It's amazing. Dedication. Gotta love it. But we'll be here on Monday for the Raw post show, Tuesday for NXT. Schedule permitting, we'll be here next Friday. There will be a live edition of Rampage at 7 p.m. So I might not be able to catch all of SmackDown, but we'll see. We'll figure that one out. Otherwise, the two Dynamite Dudes on Rampage cover all things AEW. We got countless stream of interviews coming out, you guys. I recently interviewed Chris Dickinson of GCW and New Japan fame. Bill Pritchard's cranking out a bunch of interviews as well. More than I can even think of at this point. But recently interviewed Booker T, Dutch Mantel, Tasha Steele's another one, Impact Knockouts champion. Mick James, another one. All lots of great stuff coming out, you guys. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate you so much. And that being said, Robert, we made it through WrestleMania week. Thankfully, we're back to a fairly normal pace, normal flow of content these days, which is much appreciated. But with that being said, what we do with that content? We do one thing here, WrestleZone, Robert. Can you tell me what that is?
We enjoy wrestling.
Thanks for listening, everybody.